to our Board of Supervisors meeting. We started at 9 and just finished at 2:15. It was, I think, one of the longest meetings that we've had. And when you look at the agenda, it didn't look like it was going to be that long, but it definitely was. We talked about a lot of really important issues. And so I'm just going to summarize and highlight the things that I think might be of more interest than other things. So first thing, we talked about in-person board meetings. That item did not pass, 3-2. So basically what we were asking for is that there be unanimous support when we go down to a board meeting, that everyone will wear a mask, just like the rules are for Pima County. And we had one supervisor that was unwilling to wear a mask. And quite honestly, that whole split idea where half of us are on a Zoom and half of us are in person, I sat in the boardroom when that was happening, and it was really chaotic. And ironically, a lot of the people that want to come and speak in person to the Board of Supervisors, when they're saying their comments when you call in, they want us to go in person because they want to be able to talk to us face to see us, which I completely understand, except a lot of them are against mandates, mask mandates. And I really, I don't feel comfortable having people scream things at me that are very anti-vaccine and anti-mask and not have a requirement that everyone have to wear a mask the entire time. And so I didn't want to get in this situation where, I could speak and pull my mask down because, that's how my dad contracted COVID, sitting next to a member of Congress that was doing that when he was speaking. And so I just think that it's important that every person walking into our Board of Supervisors meeting have to follow the same rules, and the supervisors have to follow the same rules that everybody else does. And so we are not moving to in-person meetings. And the item that was moved was 3-2, and it was basically we will stay the way we are until we get to a point where everyone feels comfortable going in person. So I was in favor of going in person. There was a whole item on classifications. I think that one took a little bit of time between the Public Defender's Office and the Pima County Attorney's Office in trying to really streamline some of the classifications. I think there are some nuances that are different, but I was happy to see that item did pass. And then we had a conversation about COVID. And so what we talked about was how the booster rollout is going to happen. And so we expect, based on what Dr. Garcia said, our representative for the Pima County Health Department, that we are going to be getting information on details on what the rollout is going to look like. Right now, our vaccinated people that have received at least one dose are 76.4% of those that are eligible, which is 12 and older. And we are at 67% for those that are 12 and older that are fully vaccinated. So those are really good numbers, and they continue to inch up every time we have a meeting and a briefing, and so I'm happy to see that. Right now, we only have Pfizer available for the booster, and they were really clear that anyone over the age of 65, that it's been 6 months since they were fully vaccinated, and or anyone that has a complicated medical condition, any chronic condition, is eligible, but that 6-month window is really critical and important. The other group that has been approved for a booster are frontline workers, anyone in the medical field, teachers, those kind of things. And then just as a reminder that all of our retail pharmacies, Target, Walgreens, CVS, are going to continue to provide those vaccines. Testing protocols have changed in Pima County. So because there was an abundance of testing, there's an abundance of testing options. Pima County is now, it's 14 days. So if you can take a test, and then it has to be another 14 days before you are getting another vaccine. And I just want to say that 36 of the 48 departments are over 80% vaccinated in Pima County. So we're really doing a great job, and I do see that our incentives have made a difference. There are still 12 departments that are 80% and under, 5 departments that are 70% and under, and of those, the sheriff's is at 52%, constables, justice court in Green Valley, wireless integrated network, and the treasurer's office. All of those are under 70%. So I know that our county administrator and the rest of us are looking to those departments. I do want to say that asylum seekers are 2.5%. They have 2.5% positivity rate, which is less than the rest of the county by 8%. And so I hear it often. One of my colleagues on the board is fond of saying things that, in my opinion, are scapegoating asylum seekers and migrants that are coming into our community, refugee community, and that is completely, totally inaccurate. And so I just want to make sure that we're really clear about what the stats are, because I think that that's important. So what we had Sheriff Nanos join us because he's very concerned about the corrections officers in our jails and their low vaccination rates. And so what he gave us is some data that I thought was very telling. And at one point he said the data that he had showed that 18% of his corrections officers were vaccinated. And that is a huge concern and should be a concern for all of us, because the inmates going into our jails don't have an option to social distance, don't have an option to wear a mask, don't have an option to be housed with people that have also had the vaccine. Those are all, significant problems. And so the positivity rate countywide is 10.9%. Our inmates are 7.92%. Civilian staff in the sheriff's department are 26.1%, and our uniform staff, which includes our law enforcement and our corrections officers, are 42.53%. So that is the positivity rate, which means that they are more likely than not to have tested positive for COVID. So look at those percentages. 7.9% of our inmates test positive, but 42.53% of our uniformed officers test positive. And so the other thing that he told me just a minute ago, which I thought was really important, is that he has had over $900,000 of his budget go directly to fill correction officers' positions that are out on COVID leave. And so that is, he said last year was 10,983 hours for last fiscal year, and that right now this year is looking already over 28,000. That's significant. And his problem is he didn't want to go for a mandate for vaccines because he didn't know how he would fill those positions, because quite honestly he's having a hard time right now filling those positions. So I just thought that data was incredibly important and wanted to share that with you. And then we did have a couple items regarding, let's see, we had several items regarding the sale of property, different projects. There was an item about the Legislative District 10 appointment. Recently, Senator Kirsten Engel resigned from her position in order to run for Congress, and so we wish her all the best in that run. But we wanted to move forward with an appointment, and unfortunately, that didn't move forward. And I actually wanted to move the item. And initially, it was 2-2 with Dr. Hines and myself voting in favor of moving, we wanted to move forward. So the motion that was passed was to go ahead and bring the item back on October 19th. I voted against that. That failed 2-2 because Supervisor Christie abstained. And then I moved an item that we appoint Stephanie Stahl-Hamilton, our current representative for the House in LD10, to fill the Senate seat, and Dr. Hines seconded, and that item failed 2-3 because there were 3 abstentions, with Supervisor Scott, Chair Bronson, and Supervisor Christie voting to abstain. So Robert's rule says that that item should have passed, but the board policy here at the Board of Supervisors says that it has to be a majority of those present, and so that item failed. It will come back next week, and I hope that everyone does their due diligence and make sure that whatever kind of questions that they had about the different candidates are answered before our next meeting. We had a briefing, a really short briefing on broadband high-speed internet access. That item we requested info, and a plan is coming. We had an item put on by Dr. Hines regarding the K-12 mask mandate. That failed 3-2. I did vote in favor of that. There was a policy regarding a vaccine mandate for employees, and basically what passed, and it passed 4-1, and what passed is really bringing an item back that it will be placed on the 19th Board of Supervisors agenda for discussion and action, and then we're asking Mr. Huckleberry to bring forward a plan or some sort of policy on what that would look like. Employee policy regarding cooperation with the Pima County Health Department. That item passed 3-2. There'll be a policy that should be coming back to the board. There were a couple items that were pulled, and I think that those were the big ones. There's employee compensation. That item passed 4-1 in favor of issuing those employees that were listed on that classification the 5% raise. There was some conversation about if you're unvaccinated, you don't get the 5%, but that piece of that item did not pass. And so everyone that is eligible and is listed would be receiving a 5% increase. And I absolutely can stand behind that. And the rest of the items, I think those were the biggest ones. There was just a lot of conversation about them. And I do appreciate that. I am noticing that we're having more discussion and interaction as board members and that we have more people calling in. We do have a lot of people that are against a lot of mandates. So those of you that are interested in seeing the Board of Supervisors sort of tackle some of these bigger issues and your opinion isn't being, voiced by any of or a majority of the board, that I encourage you to please call in. And so that's the process. That'll be the process until we go in person, that we'll be calling in. And so we'll go ahead and put a little blip about the information on how to call in below this summary. Thank you so much, my friends, for all of your attention to Pima County politics. Stay safe.